Most owners believe their dog is happy. The tail wags, the food disappears, the walks happen, the dog sleeps peacefully through the night. The visible markers are all present. There is no obvious suffering, no dramatic distress, nothing that would register as a problem worth addressing. And underneath that picture, quietly, something is off, because the signs of a dog who is not thriving are almost never loud. They do not announce themselves. They live in the small behavioral shifts that are easy to absorb into the background. The thing she used to do that she does not do anymore, the way she carries herself that changed so gradually. You stopped noticing it changed. The quality of her engagement with the world that has dimmed in a way that feels like personality rather than signal. 10 signs, each one easy to miss, each one on its own, explainable as something else. Together, they form a picture that is worth taking seriously. Not with alarm, not with guilt, but with the specific attention of someone who wants to know the truth about how their dog is actually doing. Not just the comfortable version. You may recognize some of these. By the end of this, you will know what you're looking at and what it is worth doing about it. The first sign is the disappearance of play. Not the gradual slowing of an aging dog, the specific withdrawal of a dog who used to initiate play and no longer does. She does not bring the toy. She does not produce the playbow. She does not manufacture the invitation that used to appear several times a day in a dog who is genuinely glad to be alive in her body. Play is not a luxury behavior in dogs. It is a barometer. A dog whose nervous system is in a genuinely positive state plays spontaneously, without prompting, for the sheer excess of feeling good. The disappearance of spontaneous play is one of the earliest and most reliable indicators that something in her internal state has shifted downward. She may still play when actively invited. She may still engage when you produce the toy and make the invitation irresistible. But the dog who initiates, who brings the play to you because her own aliveness is overflowing, is a dog whose emotional baseline is high enough to generate surplus. When that surplus disappears, the baseline has dropped, and a baseline that has dropped is worth finding the reason for. The second sign is the reduction in greeting intensity. She still greets you. She comes to the door. She shows acknowledgement. The behavior is present in its recognizable form. But something in the quality of it has changed. The greeting that used to involve her whole body now involves less of it. The sound she used to make has quieted. The duration of the engagement is shorter before she turns away. Greeting behavior in dogs is one of the most consistent expressions of their emotional investment in the relationship. A dog who is genuinely, deeply happy to see you greets you with everything available to her. The partial greeting, present but dimmed, there but not fully there, is the signal of a dog whose available emotional energy has reduced. Most owners notice this and explain it as the dog settling in, maturing, getting past the puppy phase. Sometimes that is accurate. Often it is not. The question worth asking is whether the change is gradual and tied to age, or whether it arrived at a specific point and stayed there. The second one is a signal. The third sign is increased sleeping beyond her normal baseline. Every dog sleeps a lot. This is not the sleeping a lot. This is the sleeping more than she used to. Longer periods, more frequent, harder to rouse into engagement when she is awake. The dog who used to be interested in what was happening in the room and now sleeps through it. The dog who used to get up when you moved and now stays down. Behavioral observation of dogs in welfare assessment contexts has established that increased sleeping and decreased engagement with the environment are among the most consistent behavioral markers of negative emotional states in dogs, including pain, which should always be ruled out first, but also depression, chronic stress, and the effects of prolonged understimulation. She is not lazy. She is not just getting older necessarily. She may be managing something her sleeping is the most visible symptom of. The baseline shift is the signal. What produced the shift is the question worth answering. The fourth sign is the loss of interest in food she previously enjoyed. Not the refusal of a single meal. Every dog skips a meal occasionally. The sustained, repeated disengagement from food that used to produce enthusiasm. The bowl approached without urgency, eaten slowly or not fully, without the anticipation that used to appear the moment the routine of feeding began. Appetite in dogs is closely tied to emotional state. A dog in genuine distress, whether physical or psychological, often shows it first in her relationship with food. Not always through refusal. Sometimes through reduced enthusiasm, changed pace, less engagement with the ritual that previously carried clear positive anticipation. This is the piece most owners miss entirely. If the food itself has not changed and the appetite has slowly over weeks to a lower level of engagement than it used to carry, that change is information. It sits alongside the other signs and builds a picture. On its own, it may mean nothing. As part of a pattern, it means something worth looking at. The fifth sign is the low tail carriage that has become her default. Not the tucked tail of a frightened dog in a specific situation, the tail that simply rests lower than it used to, as a new baseline, across ordinary moments where the old baseline was higher. The tail that used to carry at mid-height in comfortable moments and now hangs below it. The postural shift that happened gradually enough to stop being noticed. Tail carriage is a direct read of nervous system state. The dog whose resting tail position has lowered over time is a dog whose resting nervous system state has shifted in the same direction. Not fear, not acute stress. The chronic lowering of a dog whose baseline confidence or comfort has quietly eroded. She may not be showing any other visible sign of distress. The lowered tail in ordinary moments against her own previous baseline is enough to be worth attention on its own. The sixth sign is the increase in repetitive, purposeless behavior. She licks the same spot on her leg for long stretches with no wound there. She paces the same circuit. She stares at the wall or at a spot on the floor with a fixity that has no object. She chews or licks herself beyond the ordinary grooming that has a clear practical purpose. Repetitive behaviors in dogs, what behavioral observation has documented as stereotypies, appear most frequently in animals whose environment is not meeting their needs. Whether that is physical exercise, mental stimulation, social connection, or freedom from chronic stress, the repetitive behavior is the nervous system creating its own stimulation or relief in the absence of what it actually needs. It is not a quirk, it is a request for more of something she is not currently getting enough of. What that something is requires looking at the full picture of her daily life. The seventh sign is the withdrawal from physical contact she previously sought. She used to come for petting and now does not. She used to press against you and now keeps a slight distance. She tolerates touch when it arrives, but no longer solicits it, no longer positions herself for it, no longer uses your physical presence as the destination it used to be. It may be pain. Touch-seeking often reduces when touch has recently produced discomfort, even incidentally. It may be emotional. Both are worth investigating. The withdrawal itself is the flag. Physical contact between a dog and her trusted person is, for a dog in a positive emotional state, something she actively pursues. The withdrawal of that pursuit, the shift from seeking contact to tolerating it, from approaching to waiting, is the body's quiet announcement that something has changed in the internal state that used to generate the seeking. A dog whose nervous system is in a sustained state of low-level activation, from chronic stress, from an environment that feels unpredictable, from a household whose emotional weather has been unsettled for long enough to become her baseline, holds a readiness she should not need to hold in an ordinary safe home. She is not neurotic. She is not a highly strung breed, or not only that, she is an animal who has learned from enough evidence that the environment requires monitoring, and she is monitoring it. The monitoring is the symptom. The cause is what produced the evidence. The eighth sign is the hypervigilance that does not resolve. She startles more than she used to. She orients to sounds that previously did not register. She holds alertness longer after a perceived threat has passed. She scans the environment in a way that has become her new normal rather than a response to something specific. The ninth sign is the change in how she holds her body in ordinary moments. Not in response to something, just standing in the room, lying in her usual spot, moving through the house. The body that used to carry itself with a particular ease has shifted subtly, slightly more contracted, slightly lower through the shoulders, less loose through the tail and hindquarters. The specific physical ease of a comfortable dog has been replaced by something that is not quite distress, but is not quite ease either. Posture in dogs, like posture in humans, reflects internal state with a consistency that is difficult to fake over extended periods. The dog who carries herself differently than she used to is a dog whose internal state has shifted, not acutely, not dramatically, chronically, in the way that only shows up when you compare who she was to who she is now and notice the distance between them. The 10th sign is the one that is hardest to name and easiest to feel. She seems less like herself, not in any single observable way, in the accumulated way that all of the above produces when it has been present long enough. The specific quality of her presence in the household has changed. The aliveness that used to characterize her engagement with the world, with you, with the walk, with the ordinary stimulations of her day, is at a lower volume than it used to be. You have felt this. You may have dismissed it as projection or aging or your own changed perception rather than a changed dog. But the feeling of a dog who is not fully herself is a real read. You have been tracking her baseline for as long as you have had her. When it shifts, some part of you knows, and that knowing is worth taking seriously rather than explaining away. Most owners, seeing this list, feel one of two things: relief that their dog does not match it, or the uncomfortable recognition that she matches several, and that the explanation they have been giving those signs is not as solid as it felt before they had the names for them. Flip the discomfort. The owner who sees these signs and acts on them is the owner whose dog gets what she needs before the unhappiness becomes entrenched. Before the baseline drops so far that recovery takes months. Before the small fixable thing becomes the serious complicated thing. None of these signs require alarm. They require attention. The specific, honest, undefended attention of someone who loves their dog enough to see her clearly, even when clearly means acknowledging something is not right. She cannot tell you she is unhappy. She does not have the words for it and would not use them even if she did, because asking is not something her biology inclines her toward. What she has are these 10 signals, quiet, easy to miss, worth everything once you learn to see them. Think about your dog, not the version of her you hope she is or assume she is, the actual dog in the actual ordinary moments of your actual shared days. Does she initiate play? Does she greet you fully? Does she seek your touch or wait for it? Does she carry herself the way she used to? You know the answers. You have always known them. You simply may not have had a framework that made them feel like answers worth acting on. You have it now. She is telling you how she is doing every single day in the only language available to her. The only question that has ever mattered is whether you were listening. You are. Did any of the 10 sound familiar? And is there one sign you have been seeing without knowing what to call it? Tell me in the comments, and please, if several of these match your dog, get her checked out. Not because this is a diagnosis, because she deserves to have someone look. If this is the kind of watching you want to keep doing, subscribing means the next one finds you.